Welcome to part 2 of my video, which I'm proving to the world that the Ark of the Covenant is in Mount Kenya, Kirinyaga side.
Hi everyone, my name is Shujaa Rose. I welcome you to Extra Mile Educative channel. We are once again in the forest, besides the rivers that are coming from the forest. Our today video is sponsored by Beton Safaris, Kenya. I want us to talk about the Ark of the Covenant in our second part. Those of you who followed the journey of the Ark of the Covenant have been able to notice that we left the previous video at where the Ethiopians fought the Italians in the Battle of Adowa, led by Menelik II, and they were able to win the battle in 1st of March, 1896. This is where we are going to pick that story and move it forward until we are able to connect that very good relationship between Ethiopia and Kenya. Remember what we are emphasizing here, that the Ark of the Covenant is actually in Kenya, in this forest, Mount Kenya. The Ethiopians were so excited when they won the Battle of Adowa. Remember, this was an African country fighting a European country, very well prepared in terms of the battle weapons, and they won it. And therefore, there was huge celebrations in Ethiopia. However, after 12 years of winning this battle, Menelik II became very sick. In fact, he got a stroke, and therefore he would not have been able to continue governing Ethiopia. The wife took over. Emperor Tiatu took over and ruled alongside the husband, the sick husband, until Menelik II died in 1913. When Menelik II died, we find the grandson, who became an automatic heir, taking over, and this grandson is Yasu, and Yasu somehow became very unpopular with the Ethiopians. Why? Because he was a Muslim. Remember, Ethiopia is wholesomely a Christian nation. The few people who were Muslims influenced the grandson, who became quite arrogant, and the Christians were left with no choice but to start a resistance. The resistance was led by one lady, the daughter of Menelik II, who again became very popular with people because she was a staunch Christian. Remember, this time, the Ark of the Covenant is still under the leadership of Ethiopians. And when they talked about the Ark of the Covenant and the resistance led by the granddaughter of Menelik II, we find a situation where the grandson was defeated. However, the daughter of Menelik II did not last for very long in the leadership. She only ruled Ethiopians for 2 years. When she died, after the 2 years of ruling Ethiopia, another granddaughter took over. This granddaughter was none other than Wezaro Manem. Wezaro was the favorite granddaughter of Menelik II. This favorite granddaughter of Menelik II was married to one Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. Haile Selassie, alongside the wife, who was the granddaughter of Menelik II, kind of took over the leadership of Ethiopia. And he was crowned the Emperor of Ethiopia in 1930, actually second November 1930. So that meant that the Ethiopians still had faith in the Solomonic dynasty moving forward, where we connect Haile Selassie through marriage to Menerek's II family. Remember, Menerek II was also joined to the Solomonic dynasty by virtue of marriage. So just like we had talked about the Queen of Sheba, we continue to see the women power taking this Solomonic dynasty up to this time. We are talking about 1930. When Haile Selassie took over, he even vowed to take care of the Ark of the Covenant, which was still under the emperorship of Ethiopia. Now, fast forward, the Italians again. Remember, the Italians had been defeated in 1896, but they kept following up on the leadership of Ethiopia. So when they had Haile Selassie had sat and was on the throne, they kind of came with this idea of coming back to Ethiopia. And actually, in 1935, 5 years after Haile Selassie had taken over, they came. And they came with such force that they wanted to take over the leadership of Ethiopia. We said in the previous video that the Italians were not so much interested with the country Ethiopia, but with the Ark of the Covenant. And therefore, Haile Selassie knew that if he allowed the Italians to take over, then it meant his leadership would have ended. Now, this is where now we will start the story of Pan-Africanism in Africa, the spirit of Pan-Africanism. Remember, in 1935, when the Italians have come to fight the Ethiopians, then it meant they were better equipped than they were the previous time. This made the Ethiopians very worried. Haile Selassie was equally worried, but he trusted on the Ark of the Covenant. He knew that they would win the battle the way Menelik II had won in previously when the Italians struck Ethiopia. But then the challenge of the Italians' battle weapons shocked everyone. It's good to notice that in 1935, there was a coincidence because the Jomo Kenyatta was actually in Britain. Remember, from the history books, the Jomo Kenyatta had left Kenya in 1929. And he traveled, of course, by sea and reached Britain in 1930. Interestingly, he was going to be enrolled in London School of Economics, and he actually picked it up. But then there was the misfortune because World War II broke up. That was in 1939. And when the war broke, Jomo Kenyatta had to stop his lessons. But then again, he remained in Britain. He kept himself busy by teaching, and tethering the farms of the Britons, while he made an extra coin for his own upkeep. This particular time when he was free is when again he started writing his book, Facing Mount Kenya. Remember, he was studying anthropology, and through the lessons he was covering, he was able to really talk about the Kikuyus of Kenya. Actually, as he wrote Facing Mount Kenya, he concentrated much more on the Kikuyus. And he couldn't avoid mentioning about the Kikuyu Central Association, the movement that was again leading the fight against Britons in Kenya. So at this particular time, when the World War was taking place, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was able to talk to the Britons. Remember, the Britons had become very fond of him because of how he was able to express himself and talking about the community that he had come from. And this also was a source of confidence that the Britons started getting with Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Besides this, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was able now to join hands with other African nationalists, Kina Kwame Nkrumah and such people. And they approached the British government where they talked about their fellow Africans, the Ethiopian people, and they actually requested if the Britons would come and assist the Ethiopians in rather against the Italian. And you know what? Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was able to convince them, and therefore we find the Britons coming to Ethiopia, joining the Ethiopian army and fighting the Italian people. And you know what? The battle was won. The Britons combined with the Ethiopians. They were able to win that battle, and the Italians were pushed away. The war is won. In 1941, Haile Selassie is still in charge of the Ark of the Covenant. It is still in the Paris, and therefore we find the Italians giving up and going back. Jomo Kenyatta is smiling back in Britain that they have assisted a sister country win a battle between a European country. So at this particular time, this is where now we find that the Second World War is still very active. Remember, the World War has started in 1939. The Britons are already in Kenya. That is why they were able to converse with Jomo Kenyatta, and they were able to strike deals here and there. Remember, in the World War II, the Second World War, Africans had been carried away from Africa to go and fight alongside the Britons. And as soon as the World War was over, the Africans came back. And students of history can remember in 1945, when these people, the Africans who had gone to fight alongside the Britons, came back, especially in Kenya, somehow they had gotten exposed to books. They had read how the Indians had fought for their independence, how the Americans had fought for their independence, and therefore they started agitating for independence. Why? They had already gained tactics way back as they fought in World War II. This agitation, Jomo Kenyatta, while in Britain, could talk to his brothers and sisters here in Kenya, and he would tell them that the people who would assist them were the Ethiopians. Remember, Ethiopians had gotten a lot of experience in battles. They also had gotten a lot of weapons from the Britons. Bearing in mind that Kenya was fighting the Britons, and the Britons had helped in Ethiopia, it meant that the Ethiopians would assist Kenyans, give the tactics that were being used by the Britons. Now, between 1945, Haile Selassie in Ethiopia was getting worried that the Italians may come back, and this time, because the Britons were busy fighting the World War, may not be there to assist them. Haile Selassie knew that the Italians were looking for the Ark of the Covenant, and therefore his first reaction after winning the battle was to hide the Ark of the Covenant. the Ethiopians or Haile Selassie made a replica the way during Solomon's time had been done. A similar replica Ark of the Covenant was made and was left in the Paris. As this was made, the original Ark of the Covenant had to be hidden. Why is it to be hidden? Haile Selassie were very close with Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, who had helped him fight away the Italians. So what happened is that Mzee Jomo Kenyatta assisted. Remember this time, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta have written facing Mount Kenya. And Mount Kenya is known as a holy mountain. In fact, through the anthropology lessons, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta had already indicated that the mountain was holy, just like the mountain in Sinai. So the Ark of the Covenant had to be brought to Mount Kenya. How was it to be brought? Between 1945 and 1952, when Kenya was declared as when emergency was declared in Kenya, between that time, there was a lot of movement between Ethiopia and Kenya. So the Ark of the Covenant is brought to Kenya, where the mountain side, which has the roughest terrain. And the terrain in this case is the side of Kirinyaga. So this meant that the Ark of the Covenant was brought safely in Mount Kenya. This friendship, the path they had used to bring the Ark of the Covenant is the very path that was used by the Mao Mao, the generals, who had now vowed to fight the Britons. Where were they to get the weapons? The very friendly country of Ethiopia. And they went actually to Ethiopia. They used to go anyway many times to go pick weaponry items to come and fight the Britons in Kenya. This route, I'm sure we can remember at one time there was this controversy of General Mathenge and how he raided in Ethiopia. This is the same story. They were actually going to Ethiopia and coming back with weapons until the fight was fought between 1952, 1963, when Kenya actually became a sovereign state. Why? Because through Ethiopia, the Kenyan militia, the popularly known as Mao Mao, had won. They had resisted properly, and Britons had started seeing a situation where they were losing it. So, avoiding the shame of losing a battle, they released Kenya, and Kenya became independent. Was the Ark of the Covenant taken back to Ethiopia? It is not known, because had it been taken back, we would have known, because when Kenya got independence, then everything came to the limelight, and therefore we were not informed of any time that the Ark of the Covenant went back to Ethiopia. What should be in Ethiopia is the replica, not the original Ark of the Covenant. What we have in Kirinyaga, on our side of Mount Kenya, is the Ark of the Covenant. And we all know, like we had said, Kirinyaga has a lot of excess. Kirinyaga is blessed. And us as Kirinyaga people, we believe that the Ark of the Covenant that is within our boundaries is what gives us the success victory and the shine that we have in Kirinyaga. Thank you. This relationship between Kenya and Ethiopia has been ongoing since independence and since Mzee Jomo Kenyatta assisted Ethiopia, particularly so Haile Selassie, the relationship has been maintained. And it's no wonder that when it came to Beyond Zero van, when the First Lady of Kenya, Margaret Kenyatta, was bringing it to Kirinyaga, coincidentally, she was accompanied by the First Lady of Ethiopia. And they handed over the van, the Beyond Zero van, to Kirinyaga with the First Lady of Ethiopia. This was such an honor and a privilege for Kirinyaga to host in 2016 two First Ladies, one from Ethiopia and one from Kenya. Once again, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and always click the bell button so that every time we upload our videos, you will be the first one to notice them. Follow us keenly on Extra Mile Educative channel. We definitely will bring you many more episodes that will excite you and educate you. Thank you. God bless you.